Hey everybody, welcome to Open by Accident. I'm Nick.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're back to the N64 chopping block with another game. This episode, WCW versus NWO World Tour.
Yeah, brother.
So we played WCW NWO World Tour. I've got a little bit of history with this game. I actually purchased this game as one of my first video games when I traded in my Sega Saturn collection for a Nintendo 64.
Sweet.
In some games. It was like this game, Bomberman 64, Mario 64,
Okay.
MRC Racing. So I actually really didn't, I went into this game blind. I bought it because I was a big WCW fan as a kid.
Fair.
And I was like, hey, it's a WCW game, it's a wrestling game. And the place that we used to go to and frequent all the time, they happen to have a used copy, a complete in-box copy of World Tour. I absolutely fell in love with this game as a child.
Yeah.
And it's still a lot of fun to play today if you know how to play.
This is very true. I didn't grow up with a lot of the wrestling games on N64. I played Mario Party, Mario Golf, stuff like that. Diddy Kong Racing was more my speed. So yeah, I was very terrible at all the wrestling games, including this one, which you guys will see.
You mentioned Diddy Kong Racing. That was another game that was purchased at the same time because when I say I traded in my Sega Saturn collection, I had an extensive Saturn collection in late 97, and I remember trading it all in because the system stopped working, so I traded all the games in because we had just gotten an N64, and it's like Diddy Kong Racing was out, but at that point I don't think Mario Kart was available yet, or it was just a convenience thing. So
That's fair. But I mean, Diddy Kong Racing was a good racing game up until Mario Kart around the time. So
my experience with it was I did a lot of No Mercy, so playing this for today kind of has some similarity to it. They play basically the same.
Yeah. This is one of the 4 wrestling N64 games that's on that Aki engine published by THQ. These are like quintessential for any wrestling fan to own. These are like the creme de la creme, the best of the best when it comes to wrestling games. And WCW versus NWO is actually the first one that was released in North America for us. It's got a really good, for a wrestling game that is, single player campaign.
Yeah. So
basically you go through and you wrestle like for the world heavyweight title in like a tournament, if you will, but there's no like bracketry. It's just, you move on from wrestler to wrestler to wrestler. They've got a tag team, and then you've got the cruiserweight to start out. And essentially when you win those titles, you unlock a hidden character. So like one of the first hidden characters that you unlock is Diamond Dallas Page for winning the world heavyweight title. So everybody wants to do a diamond cutter. So.
Yeah.
But I played through the campaign of the world heavyweight title, which, it's a quick playthrough, but like I said, it's rewarding because it's got those unlockables. And that's where this game kind of is interesting, where you have to have a memory card because those characters don't stick around that you've unlocked unless you save it to a memory card. So it doesn't have built-in memory or anything like that. Whereas like Jeff's got a lot of experience with No Mercy, and the battery backup was built into the game. Yeah. So what'd you guys feel about the gameplay of WCW? We played a couple of matches.
It was pretty solid for me, I guess, with having a background on No Mercy.
Yes.
It felt good playing it, so I was able to pick it up pretty quick.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, it was fun. I even going through the booklet, I just am not good at getting the moves down. So like whenever I get a good move off, it was by chance. So, but for the most part, I mean, it handled pretty well. Didn't have much lag at all. So
we experienced a little bit of slowdown, like one of the last matches.
When you guys were
it was like when Jeff was outside with the AI, basically holding him off so that you and I could finish the match in a 4-man face-off.
I think that's just because we were so far apart, on the ring and off the ring, and there's just too much going on at once.
Right. Yeah, so the multiplayer, you are kind of limited. You got 1v1, you've got 2v2 in a tag match.
Yep.
So that would be a 4-player mode. Then you have like a handicap match, and then you have the 4-man battle royale, if you will, where it's just last man standing.
Yeah.
So the options are definitely limited in comparison to the other games that are, you can consider them all part of that same series. But it's it had to start somewhere.
Yes.
And you can see where they basically took this idea from this game and then built upon it as the other games
They
came
improved
out.
on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
A big improvement on it going forward. So this game's roster is filled with WCW wrestlers. You've got, like the Steiner Brothers, the Giant. You got Sting and Lex Luger, and then the NWO side, you've got Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and then the Outsiders, Buff Bagwell, and Scott Norton. So, it's not a huge roster compared to like No Mercy or Revenge, which is the direct sequel to this game, but the roster is still very solid when you compare it to other wrestling games that came out prior to this. So there's a lot going for this game, and I just think it's a lot of fun. The controls for me are spot on, but I've played these games for nearly 20 plus years now.
Yeah,
so right. So for somebody like Nick, who just kind of occasionally played it when I forced him to play it with me when we were younger, or, Jeff, who's used to playing No Mercy, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a different system because it's kind of primitive because it kept getting better and better.
Very dated system.
Yeah, but the gameplay itself, I think, is just
it's fun.
It's spot on. It's a lot of fun. It's easy to pick up and play for just about anybody. Jeff was getting really good at the reversals. And
the reversals, and then of course the tag match me and you did. We were taking in and out doing double teams.
Yeah, so. we were trying to make time it so that way we could do a double team move.
Yeah,
the thing is about this wrestling game is it introduced a lot of like simple concepts that you'd think would be part of any wrestling game, but they never were.
Yeah, exactly.
Like interacting with the turnbuckle corners and off the ropes, and then doing high flying moves onto the ground and that sort of thing.
The wrestling game I played before this was, of course, the arcade WrestleMania game. That was the last one I played. That was like really fun to play.
Right.
And then picking up the 64 ones was like, well, this is day and day.
So WrestleMania, the arcade game that he's referring to, is actually a WWF logoed game, but it plays like it spot on with Mortal Kombat.
It's the same developers too.
Same developers, same control scheme and everything. It plays like a arcade fighter versus like a more of a pro wrestling game. So,
and going back to the cool mechanics, I liked how things that you're saying that you don't see a whole lot of is like when you were outside the ring getting the giant to get counted out, and I was trying to pin you inside the ring, or you trying to pin me, and it was doing nothing because the ref was preoccupied
with me fighting
the count
out.
Trying to count him out because it started before the thing. But I did find it kind of interesting though that when I did get him in a pinning predicament when you were still working on the giant outside, he did realize that hey, you're in the ropes, so it was a rope break.
It's a rope break.
He's got his eyes on,
but he wouldn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's, like I said, there's a lot of good things about this.
Oh yeah,
I think this. If you went back in time in 1997 and bought this game brand new, because I'm sure this was like a $60, $70.
Oh yeah, for anybody wrestling fans, it would probably be occupied for hours on end.
Yes. And I remember playing this game so much, and until basically Revenge came out, and I mean I was playing it up until the day before probably I got Revenge, just because I enjoyed the game so much as a child. So there's a lot of nostalgia here for me.
Yeah.
WCW NWO was probably one of the greatest storylines in pro wrestling.
Oh yes,
and they capitalized on it with this wrestling video game.
Yep.
One, two, three count fall.
So I know the graphics are a little dated because it is an N64 game, but some of the character models were pretty goofy. I remember Jeff played Ric Flair, with his luscious hair, but he looked very rotund and he had a spherical head, so it wasn't really the Ric Flair I know and I love.
It looked more like a turkey roast on the screen.
Yeah, very goofy looking characters at some points.
You got the character faces where the mouth is just like
constantly open. Yeah, a bunch of mouth breathers, I guess.
And every character, it's like the same like shape or size.
Yeah.
But the characters themselves do play a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So like when you play as a cruiserweight, like Rey Mysterio versus the Giant,
you get the body.
Yeah, they move around differently. They have different move sets.
Yep.
Each character, every character character plays exactly the same way as far as the controls go, which is awesome in my opinion.
Yes.
So once you learn how to play the game, it doesn't matter who you pick as a player.
It'll be easy to pick up.
It's going to be it's an easy pick up to play game is what I was getting at. But each character has their own move sets by hitting a different sequence of buttons. You know, you got strong grapples by holding the button down. You got weak grapples by just tapping the button.
Yeah.
And then you've got like signature moves or finishing moves.
Yeah.
So basically you got this like meter you're trying to build up. And essentially once you get that meter up and you hit your taunt button after a strong grapple, you're going to perform a finishing move or a signature move. And the cool part about that is each character has at least two, because if you do it from the front, it's going to perform one move. If you do it from the backside, it's going to be a different move.
There's also ones you can get on the turnbuckle and actually do it too.
Right, exactly.
Like Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, he'd probably do the frog splash off the top rope.
Or like I was Eric Bischoff and I couldn't climb up to the top rope to even jump unless I had my special. Then he could climb up and do it because that was his special.
Yeah,
or one of them. So.
It's I guess what we're getting at is the game playability is just spot on, because there's just so many different things you can do. Like we were doing in the tag match where we were trying to grapple at the same time to perform a
it would give you like a small window before you would go back out the ring.
Right. And then the match where Nick and Jeff were playing, you know, he's playing as Ric Flair, and every chance he gets, he's trying to put Nick into the figure four leg lock, which is, you know, Ric Flair's patented or finishing move. So it's great because it mixes reality with, you know, the video game world where it feels like, you know, you're really there.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But this game's got a roster of like
40 characters.
40 characters. So it's got a good sized roster. And the crazy thing is this is probably one of the smallest rosters for this series of games.
Yeah, definitely. 40 characters still present for a 64 game.
Yep, but you can fight outside the ring. You know, obviously, like when Jeff was holding the giant back at bay
for a 20 count. So,
so that the ninja and I think I was maybe Ultimate Dragon at that point. We could finish off the fight in that little battle royal, if you will.
So so you get knocked out, you can actually interfere with the match still.
Right.
So you can grab him and drag him through the ring.
Yep. You just can't get back in the ring, but you can bring
you can bring him out to you.
Yeah. For a while, he was just sitting there taunting, you know, because you can just stand there and taunt.
You can sit there and taunt, build your meter up.
Yeah. So like I said, the move sets and then the different moves you can do, because like you get different moves when you're in the corner, the turnbuckle. You get you know, throw them in the ropes. You're going to perform a different move if they're running at you. You know, that sort of thing. And then sometimes when you hit
even the reversals for the smaller guys are different than the normal guys.
Yep. So and then, you know, when you got them laying on the ground, you've got submission moves. Sometimes you can just stomp their face in. You know?
Stomp them, grapple them.
Elbow, leg drop them, whatever.
And looking at Ric Flair's, you know, player model, it looks like his face been stomped in a little too much.
A couple of times.
Yeah.
So ultimately, this game, WCW versus NWO World Tour, it's on the chopping block. We need to determine if we're going to keep it, we're going to get rid of it. So, you know, what's some key elements about this game, Nick, that maybe you like, you dislike, makes you want to go back to playing it again, or just, you know, poking it with a stick?
So this one does have a little nostalgia to me, just in the sense of playing these old wrestling games, you know, with you at family gatherings, or just when I was growing up, because we had an N64. I was always terrible at them, so the nostalgia kind of comes from me hating the games. But we still played them, you know, and it's still part of my childhood. So it does have a little nostalgia in the good way there. Replayability, like we talked about, a lot of characters, a lot of versatility to the character styles. So I do think there's a lot of replayability there. Graphics, little, you know, dated, obviously, a little wonky, but still really good for this being, you said, the first one that we actually got here in the States.
Well, this is the first wrestling game for the Nintendo 64. It came out December of '97, so I mean, technically, the Nintendo 64 was just starting its second full year in the United States when this came out. So
for it being that early on, I mean, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I don't know. I think I've made up my decision, but I think for the most part, I mean, it was a tough one for me. It was kind of 50-50. So,
how about you, Jeff? What makes you like
from
this
a nostalgia point? I see where Nick's coming from. So, growing up with wrestling, this is definitely something that I like because of the wrestlers that I grew up watching on WCW. The gameplay is really good. I don't think it's as polished as No Mercy.
It's fair.
So
it's fair.
There was a like a 3+ year gap between
yeah,
the two
there
games,
is.
so
Figure some stuff
they're gonna
out.
get some polish
Yeah.
between the two. But
So-
I understand where you're coming from on the comparison, just because that's the game and for me, I know all 4 games pretty well because I played them heavily. So
Yeah, I'm having a decision too, but
okay, well, I mean, WCW NWO World Tour. I've owned this game since December of 1997. There's a lot of nostalgia here, so that's going to play a factor. The game is still easy to pick up and play, and if I were playing WCW Revenge or No Mercy or WrestleMania 2000 and then went to this, I might have a different opinion, but we're starting at the beginning.
yep.
I'm a huge wrestling fan, if you couldn't tell.
Always when wrestling stuff.
I am big into WCW. I used to watch a lot of WWE, WWF stuff. I kind of tapered off that. Jeff's kind of getting me back into it, but I'm a wrestling fan through and through. I've made up my decision because of nostalgia, even though I know there's better wrestling games on the system. This one is an outstanding wrestling game. It's a budget-friendly game. This is probably the cheapest of the 4 games to pick up, especially if you get a loose cartridge. You're not going to pay maybe around $10, if that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, complete in box, that's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
Because any complete in box game on Nintendo 64 is starting in that $20 to $30 range for a dated sports title these days. So, this is going to bring a little bit of a premium complete in box. But if you're just wanting a player's copy, this is a great point to start because it's cheap.
I agree.
I got so many good things to say about it. I don't have anything negative about it.
Okay.
I think it's a good building block. It's a nice showpiece, especially if you own the other games in the series. That, and I'm a diehard WCW fan. So I've made up my decision before I even started making this video.
Of course.
So I think our wild card of the 3 of us is probably Nick.
Yep.
So we'll let him go last. Okay. I'm going to go first because I think it's easy. This game is not going anywhere ever. You can put it in my grave with me. I don't care. I love this game. I've got a lot of nostalgia for it, but my vote is to keep WCW and NWO World Tour. What about you, Jeff?
I think I'm thinking along the same lines as you, keeping it because it does bring in a lot of nostalgia.
Yes.
It's easy to pick up.
Yeah, it's easy to pick up and play, and the nostalgia's there because it's WCW and it's anything that's wrestling. Jeff and I are interested.
Yeah.
So, Nick, I mean,
I'm not going to be that harsh on it like you think I may be. I do think we need to chop it on this one just because we are trying to downsize and it's not the best of the bunch. I do think that I had more fun playing some of the other ones. Like, I don't know if it was No More Mercy or a couple of the other ones that had a lot more venues and a lot more game modes and stuff like that.
Right.
Those I'd probably keep over this one. And because I have no nostalgia to it. I don't even like playing them. So
yeah, you bring up the venues. Like, it's totally random what venue you get when you play this.
Yeah.
Whereas when you go to the next game, WCW NW Revenge, you get to pick your venue from pay-per-views and that sort
and
of
it's
thing.
A huge list if it's the one I'm thinking of.
It's like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So you kind of see the beginning of the Akai engine as they improve upon it with each release of game.
Right. So this is just the stepping point. So, but I appreciate your support, Jeff, that we keep this game. Nick, you can leave now.
Hey, I wasn't that bad on it. All right.
No, like I said, I wouldn't let this game go anywhere. Even if these 2 guys outvoted me, I'd hide it somewhere. Like, hey, did you get rid of that game? Yep, I got rid of it.
I'd find it.
And he would probably call me and let me know if I had a difference of opinion too.
Yeah.
So I found it. We're gonna go throw it in the water. Water.
So, what did you guys think? Would you keep WCW NWO World Tour if you owned all of the other Aki games that were released by THQ? Now when we get to like the WCW games, like Backstage Brawl and Mayhem, that's gonna be
a little harder decision.
It's gonna be a little harder decision because they're not very good games.
Yeah.
But this one is very good in a playable standpoint. It reviewed really well for its time, and it's held up in my opinion. So. Like I said, what did you guys think? Have you guys played World Tour? Or what's your favorite wrestling game on the Nintendo 64? Make sure you leave a comment for us. We appreciate you guys watching. We're open by accident. Make sure you check out the other stuff on the channel. Check out our podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
Brother.
Why is Ric Flair so rotund?
I don't know. Why is it like a Christmas roast?